Next we'll move up to the overhead. Got another important label up here, overall height 13 feet 6 inches. Driver has to be aware of overpasses, underpasses when they're out on a highway. Rule of thumb is if an 18-wheeler type truck travels that highway, your height should not be a problem. If you kind of get off the beaten path into some side roads, be aware of the height. That is the highest point on the vehicle. Actually, the highest thing up there is the satellite dish in its stowed position. It's a little bit higher than the air conditioners up there, 13 feet 6 to clear. Low-hanging tree limbs is another concern. Miscellaneous storage. Our one of 3 TVs here called our front TV. We'll take a look at the rear TV and the exterior TV as we walk to the back and go outside. A few items we'll talk about in this overhead cabinet. Again, I'm going to point to this. This is an item that's going to be covered in detail by IT broadcasting personnel, but this is your TrackStar satellite TV, not to be confused with the internet satellite. There are 2 dishes up on the roof. The satellite TV dish is covered by a weatherproof dome. It's in an operable state all the time. The internet satellite dish is a big dish further to the back on the roof, and that's the one it raises and lowers for internet satellite. Your satellite TV is not ready to work yet. It needs a receiver to work. This is the pre-wiring that you see here for the receiver, and IT Broadcasting will be installing that receiver for you for either DirecTV service or Dish Network, whatever service you end up choosing to provide satellite TV. To the right of that, we're going to have some inputs for the TVs. Normally you're going to have the inputs on TV antenna, as you see it there, TV antenna for the main TV up front here, TV antenna for the VCR, and for the other 2 TVs, TV antenna will be selected. There's also a 12-volt boost up here if you're not using the satellite TV and you're using the antenna. We'll talk more about this antenna in a minute. You want to be sure to have this power button pressed. That's a 12-volt circuit that will give you a boost or an amplification of the signal. If you're getting a weak signal coming into the television, a weak channel, this will give you a boost to boost the antenna to bring in local TV stations. With your satellite TV, that's a non-issue. Below that, we have a Memorex DVD player. And below that, we have an Extron Matrix controller for our 3 TVs. And we've got a label here. Farber tries to label everything that they can to assist you in what you're trying to accomplish. In reading the label, it says to change input to the monitors, press an input on the left. Well, we only have 2 inputs that are in use here. First one is DSS, which is satellite TV. The second input is DVD or your DVD player. So it says press an input. Let's say we're going to want to play the DVD, so we're going to press an input. And then it says press an output on the right. And this is our outputs, front, rear, and exterior TVs. Again, input, light will light up. And we got all 3 of those on, meaning we can send DVD signal or output to the 3 TVs. Last thing you do, step number 3, press the enter button. Over here is the enter button. So that's the sequence. Here, here, and enter. And you have selected the proper output to those TVs. Below that is where I normally keep the remotes, whether you want to put Velcro on the remotes or not, but we actually end up with 5 remote controls. Excuse me a minute. We have 3 of the TVs are Sharp brand, so looking for the Sharp brand on the remote. Any of the Sharp remotes, even though they look a little bit different, any of the Sharp remotes will work any of the Sharp TVs. Got 3 of those. You have Memorex brand DVD player up there, so obviously that's going to work your DVD player. And then back in the back room, once we get back there, I'll show you an additional remote for your Tandberg video conferencing system. If we're going to be watching TV and we're not using the satellite TV, we're going to use the antenna. Maybe you're in an area where you can't get satellite service, or maybe you didn't pay your satellite bill. You can go to roof mounted antenna. Turn it in the proper direction here where it says raise the antenna. And let me see if I can get a channel here that has a little weaker signal. We're on digital TV. Okay, there's a regular analog TV station coming in just from the antenna on the roof. And I raised it, and now if I pull down the locking ring, and if you watch the picture there, and you see the locking ring here, by turning it, you can see the picture kind of fade in and out to get your best picture. When you go to stow the crank up antenna, line up these two arrows here. Make sure you have these two arrows lined up before you crank it back down. Otherwise, the antenna is going to end up hanging off the side of the roof. So line up the two arrows and then crank it in the down direction. You'll hear it hit the roof up there. And the antenna is down. Last thing up front here before we start it way to the back, we've got a map light for the passenger.